Have you ever wondered how Western and Eastern medicine view the human body differently? You could say that, perhaps a bit exaggerated. Traditional Korean medicine aligns 99.9% with the framework of systems biology. Systems biology is a discipline that studies the human body from an integrative perspective, the complete opposite of reductionism, which tries to explain phenomena by breaking them down to their smallest parts. Professor Dennis Noble is known as one of the pioneers of systems biology. On the other hand, a famous advocate of reductionism is Richard Dawkins, the author of The Selfish Gene. Interestingly, the two have been friends for a long time, and one of their debates was once a hot topic on YouTube. Dawkins' reductionist view, as described in The Selfish Gene, suggests this: the reason we love, act morally, or even have certain physical traits or personalities, all of it can be traced back to our genes. These behaviors are the result of a long evolutionary process, driven by genes trying to replicate themselves. In other words, reductionism argues that every phenomenon can be explained by going down to the gene level. But from the systems biology perspective, this explanation is incomplete, and sometimes even flawed. Yes, genes play a key role in determining our traits and causing symptoms. But not always. Sometimes what happens at a higher level, like brain function or emotional state, can actually influence how genes are expressed. In short, we are influenced by our genes, but we also influence our genes. Here are a few examples that show the limits of a purely reductionist view. In developmental biology, when undifferentiated cells from a limb are transplanted into an eye during embryogenesis, they grow into eye cells, not limb cells. This means not all instructions are encoded in the genes alone. There's also a study showing that sexual preference in frogs, something shaped by environmental experience, was passed down to the next generation. If a trait acquired through experience can be inherited, then it suggests genes are not the only factor influencing us across generations. Another point, human genes do not contain information about essential environmental conditions, like uterine temperature for a developing fetus, or the oxygen and water necessary for life. Genes can't function properly on their own. They require a mother and a suitable environment. In that sense, a gene is more like a seed. It only grows when the soil is right. So systems biology doesn't see genes as blueprints, but more like a database, a flexible resource that can be accessed and influenced by higher-level systems like proteins, the brain, or emotions. Traditional Korean medicine takes a very similar approach. It considers the root causes of symptoms and diseases from multiple dimensions. Some theories focus on emotional causes. Others, like Shang Hen Lun, track physical changes as illness progresses. For example, Shang Hen Lun looks at the course of a common cold. It may start with chills and fever, then the fever breaks with sweating. But if the process is blocked, it can lead to high fever, or progress further into digestive symptoms. Different herbal prescriptions are given at each stage, depending on the symptom pattern. Now let's compare this to how a reductionist would approach the same cold. The virus is the clear cause. So, the most effective treatment would be to neutralize the virus directly. But from an integrative viewpoint, the virus is only one piece. Other factors, lowered immunity, stress, poor nutrition, also play a role. Supporting the immune system and improving overall condition might be a more effective strategy. This is the essence of the traditional medicine approach. It focuses less on pinpointing a single cause and more on understanding the relationships between multiple elements. You fix one part of the system, and another improves. This principle has guided Eastern medicine's development for centuries. So which view is better? Neither is superior. They are complementary. Reductionism is useful in many cases. For instance, when a bone is broken, the immediate goal is to fix it. Likewise, if a highly lethal virus is spreading, identifying and neutralizing the cause directly is urgent. That's when reductionist medicine shines. But for everyday colds that constantly evolve and mutate, it's hard to develop specific treatments for each one. In those cases, a broader strategy, strengthening the body's defenses overall, may be more practical. That's where an integrative approach becomes more effective. Still, there are trade-offs. Reductionism is accurate, but it can miss the forest for the trees. You might end up burning the house down to catch a bug. Integration sees the whole system, but it sometimes risks drawing incorrect conclusions because of its broad focus. Ultimately, the best approach is to use both perspectives in harmony. And it's not like East and West are completely separate. Western medicine increasingly recognizes the role of stress, mental health, and environmental factors, all part of the integrative view. Meanwhile, Eastern medicine also uses reductionist tools, like analyzing herbal compounds or setting bones. In fact, I studied Korean medicine at a 6-year university program, and roughly 70% of the curriculum overlaps with conventional Western medical education. Now, do you feel you have a clearer understanding of how these two perspectives differ? In upcoming videos, I'll share more about the Korean medicine viewpoint, and also how it differs from Chinese medicine. East or West, I aim to give you balanced, grounded, and practical health information.